Hey guys, just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, RX Smart Gear. They have been a wonderful partner over this last month in supporting our podcast and getting the word out about it and participating on it. We just want to thank Dave Newman and RX Smart Gear for everything they've done. Don't forget, anything in the store, you can use our discount code Clydesdale15, all caps, to get 15% off everything in the store with the exception of special editions and new releases. That's Clydesdale15, all caps. I have been a user of RX Smart Gear jump ropes since 2014. They are the best in the business. I've got friends that are now using their grips and love them immensely. So, hey, now's the time to get it for 15% off. Go check it out at rxsmartgear.com. Clydesdale15 for 15% off everything in the store. And now off to this week's episode. Hey, Colleen.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm Scott. I'm the one that's been communicating with you. And then I have my co-host, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
How are you?
Good.
So we're so excited to have you on. This is such an exciting story.
Thanks.
And it's been fun to follow. So really excited to have you on. We're really informal. It's just going to be like a laid back conversation.
Yeah.
I've already hit record.
Cool.
So we'll just get into it. But there's one thing I have to settle with you before we get into the interview.
Okay.
And make sure that we can still be friends.
Okay.
So this is my team.
Oh, you know what? I'm actually really busy today. I'm just kidding. Oh, that's all right. We can still be friends. I had a feeling it might be related to football.
Yeah. So you're a diehard Packers fan.
Yeah, kind of. It's really ingrained within the family. So, yeah, ever since I was born, Packers nothing.
Generational.
Yeah, lots of family in Wisconsin. My parents both lived and grew up in Wisconsin at some point. My grandma still lives there, so it's whole family.
Well, we'll forgive you for now.
Oh, thank you.
So how cool is it that your quarterback went to Cal just like you?
That's pretty crazy. Unfortunately, while I was at Cal, we weren't the best. So would have been cool to have been there while he was there. But I mean, I love football, so going to any games was really fun.
Sorry. So let's talk about your swimming career, because that's something near and dear to my heart. I was a high school swimmer and swam in college as
cool.
well. Sorry, I'm getting choked up. So you were an All-American at Palo Alto High School.
Yeah.
And did you do any other sports while you were there or just swim?
Not in high school. So right before high school, growing up, I pretty much tried every sport. My parents were very nice about that, driving me to all the games and practices. And then right before high school, they were like, hey, you kind of got to narrow it down to one. And I was the best at swimming out of all the sports I was doing. So I was like, okay, we're going to do the swimming thing.
And you were the captain of that team.
Yeah. And
you went undefeated for 2 straight years.
Yeah. So I was at Palo Alto. Oh yeah, I guess I moved. So I was only at Palo Alto. We moved a lot growing up. So we moved back to California halfway through my junior year in high school. So that would have been like right before. So I got to do 2 seasons at Palo Alto. Yeah.
That had to be pretty fun.
Yeah. No, it was definitely fun, and we got to a lot of our bigger meets were at Stanford, which is a super, super nice facility. So it was really cool.
And you specialized in the butterfly and the backstroke?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you
all
stick
the
with
short events?
Short events.
Yeah.
I was not that smart. I was a 500 freestyler.
Oh, geez. Freestyler. I am so sorry.
And did the IM.
Oh, man.
So then you actually went to Notre Dame first.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what made you choose to come to the Midwest for college?
Yeah. So I was a good swimmer through high school. I definitely peaked pretty late, I would say, in my swimming career. And so the first time around when I was looking at colleges to go to, I mean, I would say if you had asked me when I was a freshman in high school, what are your goals within swimming? I probably would have said, I want to keep doing it, keep having fun, use it to, allow me to go to a really great college and compete in college and just kind of have fun with it. I had no aspirations of, Olympic trials or winning an NC2A championship because honestly, I didn't really feel like that was in the cards for me or that I was that caliber of swimmer. And so then when we moved to California my junior year, I just really found my groove with things, had a great club team. I was part of Palo Alto Stanford Aquatics. Tony Batis was my coach, and I just started really having fun with swimming. I feel like I kind of got in a rut early in high school that I just wasn't enjoying it all that much. And so when we moved to California and just started loving it, started going a lot faster, which was very fun. And so the first time around when I was looking at schools, it ended up coming down to Notre Dame or USC. And I grew up, so my one of my grandparents went to Notre Dame. I grew up going to Notre Dame football games. Like that was just my dream. I was like, oh man, if I could go to Notre Dame, that would be so cool. And so it was definitely very ingrained in like the family culture. It was just a big, big deal to be able to go to that school. And so ended up choosing Notre Dame. And soon after that, the coach that had recruited me ended up leaving. And then all of a sudden I was dropping all this time and started going a lot faster. And so a lot of my goals, my priorities, what I wanted to do within the sport were really changing. Right around that time, my senior year, I qualified for my first Olympic trials. And so it was a lot was changing. And with the head coach leaving, that technically allowed me to, go to another school if I had wanted to, but we were like a month or two out from when school was going to start. So I was like, you know what, I'll give Notre Dame a shot. And if I don't love it, then, I can end up switching out, which I did. So it just wasn't a good fit for me. And so the second time around, it came down to Cal and Stanford, and ended up choosing Cal. And one of the best decisions I've ever made. It was just, I mean, the second I met Terry McKeever and got to hang out with the team, I knew that was the spot for me. And yeah, was super fortunate to be on. We won NC2As my junior and senior year, broke an American record on a relay while I was there, and just a lot of really, really amazing things that I'm really grateful for and really proud of.
So Stanford and Cal, like those are both no joke swimming
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
And to have that option
Right.
is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
It was, yeah, very crazy.
so you also did really well as an individual. You finished top 10, Pac-10 in both of your events.
Yeah.
Which is really good in that conference because
Right.
that's a very
No
big
joke.
powerhouse in swimming.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you said you peaked late because I peaked early.
Mm.
I peaked in my
Mhm.
like freshman year of high school into my
Yeah.
sophomore year, broke a bone in my hand,
Oh,
and then
shit.
had a cast and tried to swim with it
Oh, God.
because
I can only
swimmers are
imagine.
dumb, and and then it messed up my stroke for like the rest of my career.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, but that's really cool, and I love hearing your stories about swimming because it brings me back to those
Oh
those
yeah.
glory days of my own. But
Yeah.
so you held an American record. How long did it hold?
Oh, gosh. A few years. Um, yeah, I can't remember exactly how many. I just remember it was so cool to go back. Well, first of all, getting the like little certificate that has, American record on it. I still haven't framed that. I really need to do that. That needs to go up somewhere. But and just to go, I mean, the heat sheets you get and stuff at swim meets, and to see, the pool records, the meet records, and then it says American record, and like just seeing your name next to that. That's just, I mean, so freaking cool. And I just remember, like, that's just those kind of I mean, I am very proud of the individual accomplishments I made, but those relays and those team moments are, I don't know, something I'll hold near and dear to my heart forever. And it's just something that, even years and years from now, I mean, I still every now and again, talk to my teammates, and, we just talk about those moments and like those, in the ready room before going out there, and how we all thought I mean, so nervous. Like, I remember just feeling like I was going to throw up, but just, I mean, those are the moments I lived for. And, yeah, so just, yeah, definitely bring a huge smile to my face.
And what leg of the relay did you do?
I was the 50 fly.
Okay.
Yeah, that is it's funny because my coach, Terry McKeever, she would always tell us, you will, years from now, after you're done with swimming and your athletic career, you'll never really remember, your fastest times or all that stuff, but you'll remember like the moments you had with your teammates and, just the fun meet environment and all that stuff. And at the moment I was like, I'm always going to remember my time, because you're so hyper focused on, those hundredths, tenths of a second that you're fighting every single day for. And I don't remember any of my times. The only time I remember is my fastest time that I swam on that leg of the relay. Um, all my other individual times, I would have to look up. I have no idea. So yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny because in a relay, depending on what leg you are, there's more pressure, less pressure.
Yeah.
Because I just like you, my biggest success was on a relay team,
Oh yeah.
and we went to US Nationals in the
Cool.
4x100 freestyle relay, and I was the third person in the leg.
Oh
I would
yeah.
never want to be first or last.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a lot of pressure for sure.
So you move through college and
Yeah.
you get a degree in.
So I was got a degree in it was interdisciplinary studies with an emphasis in education. So my degree at Notre Dame was graphic design. Cal didn't have anything quite like that, but I knew that I might want to get into some form of coaching. And there wasn't an undergrad in education, but a teammate of mine was doing this degree that had more of an emphasis in education. So I ended up doing that. And actually is one of the reasons why. So I'm finishing up a master's in kinesiology right now, which has been really cool that I've gotten to kind of go back to my academics now, which has been a lot of fun.
And that's at Michigan State.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the one word in the English language I can't pronounce for some reason.
Kinesiology.
Yeah.
I like to just call it exercise science.
Yeah,
I feel like it just sort of rolls off the tongue better.
Yeah, I can do that a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
So you were this highly competitive swimmer. You graduate from college, and then there's nothing that can really fill that void at the
Right.
moment. So how long did it take you to search for something that filled that gap?
Yeah. So ending athletics was definitely something that I feel like within the community, not just in swimming, but in sports in general, I think teams, coaches are doing a better job at it now. But I think I definitely tried to avoid talking about the end of my then swimming career as long as I could. It was a very scary thing. It was unfamiliar. And so it was definitely tough ending it. And, but what really helped was so while I was swimming at Cal, my favorite part of training was everything we did in the weight room. I loved lifting. I loved just everything in there. And I was seeing that there was an internship program within the Cal Strength and Conditioning, and decided to look into that after I graduated. And at the time, my dream job was to become a D1 strength and conditioning coach. I was like, man, if I could do that forever, that would be so awesome. And so I interned there, and that really helped a lot because I still felt very connected to what I loved. And it was also so cool to help out with a program in a sport that I felt like really helped me so much and allowed me to grow and far exceed the expectations I had for myself in swimming. And then so had every intention of doing that internship, and then was going to move to Illinois where my parents live and then go to grad school. And so after I was done with the internship, my strength coach, when I was there, calls me up. He's like, hey, I'm leaving Cal, and, they're looking at hiring a new person, and I'm going to, recommend you for this job. I was like, all right. I was like, well, and that was one of the most amazing opportunities ever. So I went in and, with the help of my colleagues at the time, because I definitely, was learning as I went. I felt like I had a really good handle on so I worked with women's swimming, men's water polo, and then men's and women's diving, and which was really cool to stay in aquatics, especially as a new strength coach. And I felt like through my internship, I learned a lot and felt prepared at the time. I definitely, now looking back, I'm like, man, well, obviously, you just learn so much as you go through years of experience and now with a lot more schooling. But that was so amazing. And getting to work with collegiate athletes as a coach was truly amazing. And it was really cool to then get to coach actually some of my former teammates, which was pretty crazy. And then to work alongside someone like Terry McKeever was such a blessing. So yeah, that was, really cool.
So one, I don't think a lot of people realize how much out of the pool work there is when you're a swimmer.
Mm-hmm.
And two, would you ever consider going back to coaching?
Yeah, I think right now I would say that I would like to go back into coaching in some aspect. Not sure exactly what that will look like. With finishing up my master's, and then I actually just started a undergrad certificate in data analytics, because I've really grown a passion for data science as it pertains to athletic performance and recovery and all that stuff. So kind of exploring that avenue a little more, but I really do have a passion for coaching, helping people, but just trying to figure out what exactly that will look like once I'm finished.
Yeah, well, it seems like you're setting yourself up for multiple options as to what that will be.
Yeah.
So then you find CrossFit at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was at like you went to the regionals in 2013. Is that the story?
Yeah. So while I was a coach at Cal, I was trying to figure out what was going to fill that void of training, because I was used to, the training for swimming is many, many hours. And all of a sudden I didn't have this structure of training, and for training as long. I mean, we would swim for at least 2 hours in the morning, have weights for an hour, and then swim 2.5 to 3 hours in the afternoon. So a lot more time on my hands, and I just didn't know, all of a sudden, like my, had to explore like what my nutrition was going to look like and all that stuff. And so I knew I loved lifting, but I definitely went through a phase where I would say for most of my swimming career, I didn't have the greatest, like most positive body image, and really struggled with owning being athletic and having muscle. And so I loved lifting, but I went through this phase where I think like a lot of other people, or I can only speak for myself, but thought, I was going to get really big and bulky, and I just wanted to be really small. And so I would go and do like clean pulls and cleans because those were my favorite at the time. And then I would go hop on an elliptical for an hour because I was like, we don't want to get too much muscle. And and I was just miserable doing that because I was like, well, this just is not going to be fun. So I was working at Lululemon while I was interning at the time. And one of my friends who I was working with at Lululemon, she was like, hey, a lot of the girls that work at Lululemon are going to go watch this CrossFit competition called Regionals. I was like, all right. And I had heard of CrossFit. A lot of people were telling me I should go try it. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't really know you could compete in it. And so she takes me to California Regionals in Santa Rosa when it was outside. And I remember it was the first time I was around like a huge amount of really strong, athletic women. And it was the first time where I felt super comfortable being muscular, stronger. And if anything, I was like, I need to go to the gym right now and go lift some more. So we signed up at United Barbell in San Francisco, literally the Monday after, and I was hooked. Like I wanted to take no rest days. I wanted to go in as many times as I could. And it was just so fun because it filled that void that I needed of training with other people, of going into a gym and not being so fixated on trying to change my body to make it bigger or smaller. I was just having fun because I was trying to lift a certain amount of weight or do this workout in this time and look up at the board and try to be the fastest person that day. And so it was a lot of fun. And and then just kept doing it.
And you made your first regional in 2014.
Yeah.
Just a year later.
Yeah. Which, that was crazy. Definitely felt like very out of I remember that year. It's crazy because I competed against Molly Vollmer that year, who is now one of my best friends. I didn't know her at the time. And I always tell her, I was so in awe of her. I mean, I still am, but in a different way because I know her. But I remember like being so intimidated by her. And I was just there kind of like happy to be there. I mean, it was definitely struggled through a lot of the workouts, but I mean, had a ton of fun.
So speaking of Molly, when did you get hooked up with NorCal CrossFit?
So through her, in 2016, it was right before the last open workout, and we had met at a local comp a few weeks prior and exchanged numbers and stuff. And then right before the last workout, I was doing it by myself, and I texted her and I was like, hey, when are you doing the last open workout? I just really don't want to do it alone. Do you want to do it together? And so that was the first time we hung out. It was that horrible couplet of thrusters and burpees. And so we did it together. And then, from then on out, now one of my best friends.
And so did you start going to NorCal at that point? And that gym was full of games athletes.
Yeah. such a fun environment. So after meeting her, started training over there with her more. And then, I mean, that ended up into, I mean, that's the reason I ended up going team and then ended up coaching there. And so, yeah.
So I worked the 2017 games
Oh, nice.
at the North Park location.
Okay.
So I got a good view of you and Molly running with the crit over
Oh,
and over again.
oh, good times.
And I was taking pictures with my phone,
Yeah.
just to kind of remember being there. And I have
Yeah.
pictures of you guys running by like over and over again. It's so
That's
funny.
amazing.
So you make the games in 2017 with the team.
Yeah.
What was that like? It was your
Oh,
first time there.
yeah. So, to backtrack a little bit, so after 2016, I missed going individually by 2 spots. And then about about like a month or 2 after, I was having some shoulder discomfort, and that had been going on for a long time, like since high school. And it was just getting to the point where I was having to modify too many workouts, and it was just frustrating. And so ended up getting an MRI just for peace of mind. Honestly, I thought it was going to come back and they were just going to say that you have some tendonitis, it's inflamed, you need to rest. And that was not the case, unfortunately. And it came back. My supraspinatus was 80% torn, an overuse injury from years and years of swimming, and which makes sense why back in high school, I was having a lot of pain and discomfort, and it just held on as long as it could. And so, they recommended, if you want to keep doing what you're doing, um, surgery would be a good idea. And so definitely talked to coaches, doctors, weighed out all the pros and cons, decided to get the surgery. And so it was just really discouraging because I felt like in 2016, I was so close. And I remember telling myself after that regionals, all I have to do is keep doing what I'm doing and stay healthy. And then finding out that I wasn't, and I was like, okay, well, next year, there's no way I'm going to be able to, especially if I want to have somewhat of a, long career in this sport. I can't rush back into this if I'm going to do surgery and be rehabbing it and all that stuff. So I knew individual was out of the question, and that definitely was super defeating. And so after the surgery, I was talking to Molly, and she was like, hey, I know it's still pretty early on, but if you feel up to it, like, we're thinking of doing a team again this year. And I was like, well, yeah, like if I'm ready to go, like, sign me up. And that honestly was because going through the surgery and just trying to get back to it was definitely tough, and I was not in a good headspace whatsoever. But that kept me going, and knowing that I had to, again, none of them, I paced it out well in order to be healthy. They weren't rushing me back into anything, but that really gave me the motivation to know that I had my teammates counting on me. So days when, I could barely lift my arm over my head, and like that was my rehab, was just to keep trying and lift my arm over my head as far as I could. And just how miserable those days were, that kept me going, that like there is something I'm working towards. And I have the support of, I mean, obviously my family and friends, but also my teammates. And I'm really thankful that they had trust in me, supported me, because for them, I mean, around the open, I did the bare minimum of the open that year, but I mean, I couldn't do kipping pull-ups at that time. I couldn't do ring muscle ups. So that definitely took a lot of trust in them to know, like, no, she's, on her path. She'll be ready for regionals and the games. So I'm very, very thankful for that. But sorry, that was a very long tangent to how the games was. But the games was incredible. It was, I'm so happy. I mean, obviously going through a shoulder injury and a surgery, not fun. Don't wish it on anyone. Don't want to do it again. But because it kind of led me in that path, and like, I'm so thankful for those memories, working with that team, what we did at the games. All those memories were incredible. And it was really cool because that was my favorite part about collegiate swimming. So it was kind of cool that it came full circle a little bit, and got to experience the games for the first time with a team.
You got all the swag, and you got to
Yeah,
hang out. And
oh yeah, I was so pumped about that. Yeah.
yeah. So then you go back to individual,
Yeah.
and things kind of get crazy 18, 19 with CrossFit as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't even know what the season's like by 19, but you qualify for the games as an individual for the first time in 2019.
Yeah.
So how was that different than 17 for you?
It's interesting. So, I mean, in 18, again, I was 2 spots out and didn't qualify. So that was not fun to relive.
I tried to skip right over that one.
Yeah. No, for sure. I appreciate that. But no, it was a good learning lesson. And in 2019, so I think it was definitely very weird finding out I got, I qualified for the games through an email. That was very different because, I had always envisioned for years leading up to it, being on that regional floor and like hearing your name called, and how amazing that would feel to have your family there and your friends there. And I just replayed that moment in my head so many times, but it was still really special. And I still remember exactly where I was. I was finishing up a workout at OPEX in Arizona. I remember I immediately called my parents. I started crying. I ran and told my coach. And it was just, it was so, especially, which, even though it was very weird finding out through an email, I think it was really cool that I qualified through the Open that year, because for so long, I kind of identified myself as the strong athlete, I do better in-person competitions when there's more, different types of elements. And I've never considered myself an open athlete. And so that was really cool for me and a confidence boost to, prove to myself, first and foremost, that, I can hang with the top girls in any competition. Doesn't matter if it's a regionals, an open, a games, sanctional, whatever it is, like I'll be up there with them. So that was really cool.
See, I've always looked at you as like, if you could get to the games, I think you could do damage.
Yeah. Well, so that's what definitely, I think that was hard too, and that's the thing too. I think having this notion in my head of when I would get to the games, I would get to do all those heavy lifts, and I was so pumped to do a swim. And I think to have that vision in my head of, if I get to the games, I'll get to compete in a full games. And then that to not happen, was definitely a hard pill to swallow. But I'm definitely by no means, the only one in that boat. But yeah, still got to experience it. Still bummed I didn't get to do, of course, like, the heavy lifting and the swim and stuff like that. Like, that would have been really, really fun. But
because as I've been following your career, I always knew if you could get there, you could really like do some damage, because the swimming, the outdoor odd object stuff, I think you'd be great at. And you get there and it's the year of the cuts.
Yeah.
Now they're going to cut people every event, which had to be like a blow.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Even though you made it through a lot of the first cuts.
Yeah.
But to not make it to the swim event or the heavy lift.
Yeah.
had to just, I felt for you so much.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Um,
That was tough.
But you get there, you made it as an individual, you still got the swag,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. And then 2020 is just a mess.
Right.
COVID hits, you come within what, 0.3 of a second
Right. Yeah.
from qualifying at Wadapalooza.
Right.
And then no more sanctionals. They all disappear.
Yep.
And then even those that qualified at Wadapalooza didn't end up making the final 30
Right.
because of the changes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be a low point because you didn't even really get an opportunity to compete.
Yeah. Yeah. It was especially since, so after the games in 2019 had, which honestly reluctantly reluctantly on my part, my coach had me do a lot of reflecting, a lot of journaling about my experience, what I took from it, what was in my control, what wasn't, what I want to do moving forward. And one of the things was, I think in years past, I had always felt like I just need to qualify for the games and then shut it down competing wise and just train for the games. And I think I learned from, not that I didn't know this before, but I love competing. I do love training, but I train so I can compete, or at least I train as hard as I do so I can compete. And I love competing. And I think especially going to the games and getting that cut short, I was like, man, like that was not fun. So I really, going into the 2020 season, we had mapped out what competitions I was going to do. Obviously not overdoing it, but regardless of when I qualify for the games, I was like, I'm going to commit to these competitions because I felt like I learned so much from the games. I learned so much from competing at Wadapalooza, that the competition, not only is it a great experience, but I feel like it would just allow me to continue to learn and grow as an athlete and better prepare me for the 2020 games. And so that plan didn't really work out after, grateful I got to go to Wadapalooza, but was going to do Granite Games, the MAC, everything started to shut down.
So let's talk about your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So you started this in January.
Yeah.
You're already up to 6,500 subscribers
Yeah.
in just a few short months. I love it because you give all the great snack recommendations.
Thank you.
Like if anybody knows snacks, it's Colleen.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And it's been a really fun watch and getting to know you a little bit more. So I love the first episode where you talk about you've tried it several times, and now finally it sticks.
Right.
And you've been really consistent with this. What has that done for you? Because it's kind of like a journaling of what you've been going through. Does it help therapeutically?
Absolutely. So I think it's helped in a lot of ways, I would say. So first of all, definitely thank God for my brother Connor, who edits the videos and was kind of we had talked, you saw in the first one, this was something that was not necessarily years in the making, but started or tried to do it many years ago. And so my brother has a huge passion for editing and he's great at it. And he, many years ago was like, hey, like it would be really cool if you started a YouTube channel. I'll do the editing. It'll be great. I'm like, okay, was very hesitant about it. At the time, I wouldn't say I'm by any means, like it's not second nature yet, but was terrified of talking in front of the camera, like hated any interviews. Like I was just the worst. And well, especially hearing myself, like watching myself on video was definitely not something I liked to do. So this just sounded very scary and intimidating. And so my brother was basically fed up with waiting for me to start a YouTube channel. So he actually started one of his own. And I was like, man, like, and he's just going for it. And I was really inspired and motivated by him, and how it's definitely uncomfortable at the beginning. You kind of got to get over, like, people are going to stare and like think it's weird that you're talking to this camera on this large tripod, and it's just kind of strange. But I think it's been really good for me, therapeutically, in a way that, especially when I'm not having great days and I start vlogging and hearing myself speak, if I'm starting to get really down or negative, it's really apparent. I'm like, man, like, no one wants to hear you just whine and complain. Not that, I mean, I want to be authentic and show that there aren't, some days aren't going to be the greatest, and that's okay too. But it's been good to get me out of some funks sometimes. And I think, and just for overall confidence, to not try and nitpick myself so much. I think the first few videos, Connor can attest to this, I wanted to take out so many things, and I just felt like I was saying everything wrong, and I didn't like how I looked in certain parts. And I think it's just been good to let that go. And not that those thoughts don't still pop up in my head, but I think what's been really cool is I feel like I've been able to engage and connect with followers so much more now, through this, because I feel like I get to show who I really am. Not that I don't on Instagram, but I feel like you can only show so much. And so with YouTube, it's been really cool to show not only Colleen the athlete, but Colleen the person.
Probably good too for your followers to see that type of vulnerability from you, because if they've seen you at regionals or at the games, you're laser focused. Beyond people staring at you for whatever reason. I mean, in terms of competing, but seeing that you're just one of us. You're you're a great athlete, but you have your fears as well, and you're willing to conquer those. So that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
And one of my favorite episodes was you were talking about your favorite cheat meal and your favorite burger, and you tried to make it at home. And it was the peanut butter and jelly burger.
Yes.
So I tried to make it myself.
Oh, did you?
Because I'd never had anything like that before.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can this be good? But I got to try it. And it was really good.
It's crazy. I thought people were insane when I first heard about this. And oh man, I haven't had one since I've been away from Arizona, and I definitely miss it.
Well, I definitely want to give us some time to talk about what's going on now in your life.
Yeah.
And so not too long ago, you were asked to try out for USA Bobsled.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Yeah. So I was initially contacted by Kaylee Humphreys, who is a total badass. So she has 3 Olympic medals, 2 of which are gold. She won world championships this year, so best pilot in the sport. And she reached out and was hey, have you ever thought about bobsledding? And I had always watched it during the Olympics, Winter Olympics, but I had never really thought about doing it. Not a lot of bobsled tracks in nearby. So, well, actually there aren't many in general, but so definitely never something that I had necessarily sought after. And so we started talking, and what was really cool was I definitely went down a rabbit hole of YouTube videos, watching her and some of the best in the sport. And I was looking up, past national teams, Olympic teams, and I kind of fit this, everyone pretty much was around my height, weighed the same. Like I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I started looking at what their training was like. It looked really fun. A lot of lifting, a lot of short bursts. I was like, this seems right up my alley. Pushing stuff, love that. And so I eventually went out to visit Kaylee in California and trained with her for a few days, just getting like a crash course in what bobsledding is all about, and talked to the head coach of USA Bobsledding, Mike, and had a lot of really good conversations. And they ended up saying, hey, like we've got a spot for you out at the Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid. And, it's going to be a pretty big commitment, especially with COVID. We can't really come and go as we please. So, you have to go out there, quarantine, and then you're pretty much out there for 2 months. So it was definitely kind of a, big decision, but it just really felt right, and had a lot of good reflecting conversations with myself, conversations with some of my best friends, my family, and just decided to take the leap. And it's been amazing. So right now, just really trying to take in the whole experience, learn as much as I can before team trials, and then, just keep growing, keep learning in the sport. And it's just really cool. I think I really feel, I don't know exactly what the future holds, but I really feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be right now. And that's an awesome feeling.
Well, I have two questions kind of off of that. One, growing up as a swimmer,
Mm-hmm.
there are no like professional swimming leagues, right? So your dream is the Olympics.
So, right.
And I know I heard you talk about that in your vlog that, growing up as a swimmer, you dreamed of going to the Olympics, and you qualified for the Olympic trials twice as a swimmer. The bobsled's a way to get to the Olympics. It's not necessarily maybe the linear path that you thought.
Yeah.
So that's got to be really exciting.
Yeah, it's I think I mentioned this in my vlog, that there was a interview that I did when I was competing at Palo Alto High School, and I was athlete of the week. And so they would interview a different athlete each week. And so that video was from 2012, I think. So 8 years ago. And I had never watched it because I really despised hearing myself on camera that much. And so for whatever reason, probably a month ago now, I decided to watch it. It was a lot better than I had expected, which is nice. But I talked about how I had just qualified for Olympic trials, and it kind of reminded me, not that I had forgotten, but it reminded me how much I wanted that. And because up until now, that was a door that had been closed, and one that I thought was going to be closed forever. And it's just really crazy. God really does have a plan, and definitely not one that I would have expected, but it's and obviously many, many more stages to be, go through, and levels, before that is a reality. But it's crazy that I kind of get a second shot at that journey. And just it's really crazy.
I mean, mentally, it's got to feel like a time warp.
Yeah.
Like back to because like you said, that door was closed, and then now it's open again. And it's not a guarantee by any means.
Right.
It's just that that door is open for that dream again.
Mm-hmm.
So the other question I have from that is, you talked about how when you went to the CrossFit regionals, you felt at home because of all of the strong women.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is you're very tall for a CrossFit athlete.
Yeah. Tall and heavy, for sure.
And so when you look at the bobsledders, now you're even closer to so it's got to even make you feel more comfortable and at peace with yourself, because you fit the mold of that almost exactly.
Oh, 100%. It's been so nuts, because I feel like in CrossFit, I think I came to terms, I'm like, okay, I'm never going to be a 150-pound CrossFitter. Like I just can't. But, I usually, like the lowest I'll get to is like a little bit below 170, but like any lower and like my recovery, my performance would just be affected. And that's just where I'm at. And I think still, I, don't like weighing myself. Like it was always, because I feel like I would definitely get in my head. I mean, I'm a lot better at it now, but when I was checking in on weight, if I'm heavier that day, then it's kind of in my head that, gymnastics and running, I'm going to be slower at today. And that's just not a good headspace to be in. I've definitely gotten, again, a lot better at it, but those are still some, doubts that would creep in every now and again. And it was so crazy to like talking to the coach. He's like, okay, so how much do you weigh right now? I was like, oh, I think I'm like a little over 170. And he's like, that's perfect. And I was like, I have never. So it was kind of fun to feel like, okay, like this is, just more accepting of where I'm at, and that my mass is a advantage and not a disadvantage. And not saying that it's a disadvantage in everything CrossFit, obviously, allows me to lift heavier. I mean, rowing, I love, like there are advantages to being heavier and taller in CrossFit.
Power output.
Yeah, it's just a lot of the stuff that I struggle at, my height and weight was a disadvantage. So, it was really cool to, and not to get so wrapped up in weight or anything, because I think I've really tried to work on disconnecting myself from the number on the scale. And I really try to, I don't know, because I get a lot of messages from women that are in CrossFit or any other sport or wherever they are in life, struggling with just like accepting of their body. And I really feel like the weight on the scale is just not a good indicator of, self-worth or body image or anything like that. Obviously in bobsledding, I did not know this until getting into it. But there is a weight collectively that your teammate in the bobsled weigh, and you can't weigh over that. And if you weigh under it, they'll add weight to your sled. So there definitely is some strategy in, if the pilot weighs this much, then the brakeman can weigh this much. And ideally you want to collectively weigh the max so you don't have to be pushing a heavier sled, which is really interesting and something I had no idea about until starting, but it's really cool.
So are you focusing more on two-man bobsled?
So there is no 4-woman bobsled, unfortunately. So only 2-man.
And then the other question I had is, does your as a CrossFitter, you work on mobility, and you have to squeeze down, and the more aerodynamic you are in the sled, the better off you are. So does that mobility training from CrossFit help squeeze down in and get aerodynamic, or have you not got to that?
So I haven't gotten in an actual bobsled yet. So we haven't gotten on the ice. We will in about a week or so. We're out from it. So that's going to be, I remember, I can't remember who I was talking to, but there definitely is a mobility component, I would say, into just being, I think also just with mobility in training as a whole. Just recovering better, moving better, having better range of motion is always good. I also think there's enough G-force that if you aren't getting yourself down, the G-force will definitely push you in there.
So how excited are you to get in a real bobsled?
I'm so excited. I'm also very nervous, but it's interesting because I've talk to, obviously there's tons of veterans here in the sport, and everyone's like, there's nothing I can really, compare it to. So you just kind of have to experience it for yourself. They did say that there will be someone at the bottom filming my reaction to my first, I guess everyone, their first time reaction is always fun to document. So I will have that, which will be good.
Like that first hill on the roller coaster where they take your picture and you're like, ah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've seen the footage of you at the push track.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do a push track session, how many times do you push the sled?
So it kind of depends. So we have our slots, and depending on what we're working on, depends on how many pushes we'll do. So like the other day, I was working on just the hit, which is the initial, like breaking the inertia of the sled at the beginning. So I'll do a hit and then take like 3 or 4 steps and then just let the sled go. So if I'm doing that, we'll do a lot more, because it's definitely more technique work. You're not going as long, so you can just get more reps in. And then other days we'll do full pushes. So we'll do a hit and we'll run about like 35 meters out down the crest and then hop in. And if we do those, especially if we're doing it at like a higher percent effort, probably like anywhere from like 6 to 8-ish, I would say. But definitely, I think as I start to learn more and kind of shift into that next gear of going like 100%, I think I'm also learning, trying to let go of the CrossFitter in me that wants to do like a million reps, because that's not what this is about. It's about going 100+% for a very short period of time, knowing that you're going to get tons and tons of rest, versus, I mean, the last few years of my life was learning how to go like 80% for a really long time. So just kind of switching gears.
And your swimming background was, especially in that relay, 50 meters is nothing,
right,
for a swimmer. And it's all out effort for that 50 meters.
Yeah.
So you're back to kind of that sprint mentality. What's the average start time? Like 12 seconds, 10 seconds?
Oh, time of pushing?
Yeah.
I would say from what I've heard and been talking to people about, it's around like 7 to 10 seconds. Like,
wow.
So it's all out, like all gas, no brakes kind of thing.
Everything you have for 7 to 10 seconds.
Yeah. It's cool because obviously not in the mechanics of the sport, or, this is on ice and swimming's in water, but it's cool that, I feel like there's been some parallels in the sport, like really fine-tuning one thing in training and trying to get better at this one skill and fighting for hundredths of a second, which is, what I spent most of my life doing. And so it's really fun to kind of go back into that gear again, very different, but to that all out, leave nothing behind kind of thing.
Sounds like I need to do bobsled, because that's most of my CrossFit workouts is go as hard as you can for 7 seconds and then be done.
That's awesome.
So I have one last question. I know you're really busy. So if you make the bobsled team, do you have to make a decision for next season whether to do one or the other?
Yeah. So I would say that, I would say most of my life, I like to do things and go all in 100%. And I think especially with CrossFit and bobsledding, the caliber that I want to, or the caliber of athlete that I want to become. And, if I want to make the Olympics a possibility one day, I need to go all in. Obviously, a lot depends on, what happens in the next few months, but I think, I want to be elite and I don't want to be average at both of them, or, I just, so I want to, one will have to be chosen for sure.
Well, looking back at your career of everything, you've never been average.
Oh, thank you.
And so I wish you tremendous luck moving forward with this. And I hope above hopes that you make the Olympic team.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
And we want to thank you for joining us. This has been a great, fun hour.
Thank you. This has been awesome. It's fun getting to like relive like my whole athletic career.
And we'll hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe when you're an Olympian, we'll have you back on.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
All right. Talk to you soon, Colleen.
Thank you.
Bye.